All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming to our Legislator Scorecards webinar, Holding Your State House Accountable. Throughout this presentation, there's going to be a few links, which I will point out. This one is a guide to our freshly written how to make a scorecard. So you will get tomorrow an email with these slides in it, and possibly it could happen a link to the video of this webinar. We'll see how that goes, but you will at least get these slides. So here we go. Today you've got me and Michael. So I am Karen, and that's Michael. And we will be your hosts today. And Michael has not seen this deck, so this is a world premiere, and we're going to try to mystify him with why I chose this absolutely lunatic deck. Hopefully you all enjoy the deck. When you get it, you can even use it and then mystify your own friends. Okay, on we go. Today's webinar is broken into 3 sections. First, about scorecards. What's a scorecard? Who can use them? What are they for? That kind of thing. So we'll have a short chat about that. And then we will talk about the elements of making a scorecard. And then I will actually walk through creating a scorecard. And so you'll see it live, and we'll just make one together. And you'll see all the steps that are involved. And then finally, I'll highlight a few advanced tools, plus we've got some extra links in there with some pretty thorough support for how to use some of the fine-tuning items, the little fiddly knobs, once you've got your scorecard made. All right, Michael, you excited about the program?
Yes.
All right, here we go. About scorecards. What are they? Okay, here we go. So what is a scorecard? So generally, a scorecard is going to be the summary of how a legislator voted and if they did a good job or a bad job for you. It might have some other elements, bills they sponsored, things like that, but generally it's actions they took, and how you thought, if you thought that those were the right actions. So you can present that information in a few different ways. And I have a few different examples from our scorecards here. Just a basic graph, a little bit of a heat map, or this is what we call the visual scorecard, which is by a third party. And I will show you an example of that as well. But that just uses the BillTrack50 data, and then it puts it into this lovely visual format instead of this mappy format. So depending which you prefer. All right, Michael, any comments about what is a scorecard?
Just a little background. To me, scorecards are one of the most powerful advocacy tools out there. You know, for politicians, their number one job is to keep their job. And so, when you go into a politician's office and say, hey, we've got X number of members in your district, we care about this issue, we're scoring this vote, we are watching how you vote on that. That's a very powerful tool. And so, leveraging your members to highlight both before and after a vote happens is really powerful. And so, to me, scorecards, I love them. I've recommended organizations use them and have seen the power of them through different organizations.
Agreed. One of the main tools in the toolbox. All right. Well, hopefully we will show you how easy they are to create, and you can enjoy some of the scorecard magic for yourself. Okay. So who's she? What's going on? I don't know. What is this deck? It's crazy. Okay. Anyway, so examples. I thought a few live scorecards would really help paint a picture before we dive in so that you know where we're trying to head. So the North Dakota Chamber, the Greater North Dakota Chamber, that is a link, by the way, and you'll be able to come and look at this and play with it yourself. It's just on the North Dakota website. So they've got their little explanation, which is fantastic, and then their grading scale and all of that. And then boom, here is their scorecard. And so they have chosen these bills to take an opinion on. They've put them into some different categories. They've added a few comments so that you know why they scored them like they did. They have a couple links so you can go see more information. This goes off to one of their blog posts. So lots of supporting information to get you familiar with these bills. And then once you understand the bills, you can see, oh, here's how legislators voted on them. And of course, you might want to look up how your own legislator voted on them. So they've got them scored to highlight who had the most impact here, Mike LaFleur. But I can sort this by clicking to go and find my own legislator. Hopefully I know their name, or maybe I know my district and I want to sort for it that way. But in any case, they've got these results. They also have these categories set up. So if I'm in here and I'm a member of the chamber, it could be that workforce is the most important thing to me. So I could say, show me just the workforce scores, and then it recalculates and shows me just how the votes went on workforce. So that's really nice. It's interactive and I can get to what I'm interested in. I can also see kind of which party did a better job or worse job. And these scores are pretty high. So in general, the chamber is pretty happy with their legislature. But again, I can say, but what about workforce? And I'll recalculate. And then I can say, look at the map and see if there is a geographic component to who's doing a good job for me or not, and zoom in on whatever. So again, interactive, different displays of the information. And then finally, if I want to dig into my own representative, then I can click on somebody, and I'm going to click on somebody who maybe wasn't perfect. So let's get down here. All right. And so you'll see basic information about them, but then you'll see their scores in the individual categories and what percentage right that was, and then the individual votes. And that will include any comments they put on these votes to explain them. And so you see it's color coded. She voted the right way on these. They're green. So the no is the right way. They didn't like this bill, missed this vote. This vote was no, and they liked that bill. So she got dinged for that. So you can really quickly see what votes were good and bad. And then you can see if she sponsored any of the bills that they really cared about. So if you're going to go and approach this legislator, you now are fully informed. So if you call them or go to a fly-in and meet with them, you have all the information. The other format of the scorecard, I've got the Tennessee Student Success Card. Already got it open here. So that link will take you here. This is the visual example. So it's all of the same information, but organized in a photo gallery. And so here we've got the scores. They can be color coded to the score or not, or color coded to whatever you want. So you choose how this looks. When you create it, you get to pick the colors and the format and the picture up here and all that sort of information. People who come and visit it can put in their own address and figure out who their legislator is in case they don't already know. All of the sorting and filtering I just showed you. And again, you can look at their individual scoring records. And I'm a little slow today, so we'll let that think for a second, but it's got the information. And then this is a multi-year scorecard, so I can see what the scores are in different, or the votes were for different years. And my internet's just a little slow today, so that's why I already had that open. Anyway, so those are some example scorecards. Anything you think I missed, Michael, to highlight? I mean, that's pretty much.
Yeah, no, I think we hit all the big categories of it.
Yay! Adding things up. All right, so that's where we're headed. That's what we're trying to create. Who can use a scorecard? So there are some nuances about if scorecards are okay for you to use. So if you're a company or an individual, do whatever you want. But if you are a nonprofit, and then there's a couple of rules. So if you are a C4, then you're organized for political purposes. That means, go ahead and use your scorecard however you want. But if you're a C3, you're not supposed to do any electioneering. So in that case, you're supposed to stick to the facts. So if you are just rating bills based on your policies and you're just publishing how people voted, you're sticking to just straight information and math, you should be okay. But you're going to want to consult somebody to make sure. And we've got a little bit of guidance here. So this goes off to a really good guidance document, but you also might want to get your own counsel to weigh in on that. Michael, anyone else who should be a little bit careful about deploying a scorecard?
Yeah, I mean, I think with C3s, it's it it's always a fine line, especially with the legal office. Um, my big recommendation has always been issues, not people. And so when you're talking about, hey, this is how somebody voted on whatever issue it is, pay for interns or anything, that's generally considered fine. If you're going out and saying, hey, vote for this person because they supported us, or vote against this person because they didn't support us, that's when you um are getting into not just muddy waters, but probably have crossed the line. So stick with issues and not people. So always talk about, if you're C3, you always want to talk about the issues, and not vote for or vote against this person because of that. So
Exactly. Present it as information, and here's how they voted. Done. Right? Yeah. Okay. And then why you might want to use a scorecard. We've chatted about that a little bit already to inform your advocates, voters, employees, etc. You also could use it to identify allies and opponents. So if you are hoping to get a bill introduced, you can find people who have done similar work and work with them. And you can maybe figure out who is against that stuff and reach out to them ahead of time and figure out how you might be able to write a bill that they could support. So it's a way to just kind of do a little bit of research. And as Michael mentioned, it is a way to hold legislators accountable. So you can let them know you're going to be scoring. And if you have an active membership, then they will hear from them about if they voted the right way or the wrong way. That can start to build up a lot of credibility, and legislators will take notice of your scorecard and how you're scoring the votes. So I've got a case study at the bottom for a organization that was very successful with that. And it's had a lot of success, and they explain how they did it. And legislators really do check with them ahead of votes about how they're going to score a bill. So that's pretty powerful. Maybe some less traditional uses. Michael, we've got a couple other ideas for how you could use it.
yeah, so you see fly-in support on there. Many times we've brought people to DC or the state capitol, and to have that information right there, whether it's because you printed out the screen or you're using it on a tablet, to go into those meetings and be able to say, hey, thank you for your support on these bills, or hey, why weren't you with us on these bills? And an informed advocate, when you go into those meetings, whether it's with the elected official or their staff, is really powerful. So it's putting data to your story. It's putting their history to your story, and trying to figure out where they are, places that they might be able to work with you, or sometimes you're just gonna agree to disagree, and you go into the meeting knowing that, but you still give it your best shot. I love scorecards for PAC validation. A lot of times, I've run PACs, I've advised about PACs. PAC donors want to know that you're supporting elected officials that care about your issues, and you can take this scorecard and say, hey, you know look, these are the people that vote with us most often. These are the people we're supporting. Or, if you're a PAC director, being able to say, hey, I've got this request for a fundraiser. This person's been with us for years. We should consider supporting, or, obviously, no, they've never been with us, so why should we support them? It helps put the data right there, easy to get to make the case and make those decisions.
Absolutely. And to support your first point, I have had customers come back to me and say, like, they had printed out the scorecard, and that page is very printer friendly. And they've had the legislators say, I've never had someone come so prepared to my office before. And so that just felt great to them. And then they had a really productive conversation because the legislator thought, oh, these guys have their act together. So that just a little bit of preparation actually can show very well. And then Oppo research, you can create a scorecard on a couple different topics. If you are running against somebody, you can see like where they were an outlier on that topic and talk about what you would do different. It just helps you find some votes where they didn't maybe go where they stick out, right? So it's just a quick way to research that.
Yeah, and with primaries and where so many people are on the same page, just a couple outliers will make a could make a big difference in campaign messaging and campaign results.
And then when you want to make your scorecard, it kind of depends on what you created your scorecard for. So if you are looking at just trying to find your legislative hero of the session so that you can do some sort of nice dinner or something, then you can just wait till the end of the session, do it once, great. So if you're just trying to inform yourself, wonderful. You can just wait. But if you are doing it for accountability and you're trying to influence how legislators vote, then obviously you're going to need to keep it up all session long. And so you're going to want to get it started early in the session and then keep it maintained, and make sure that you're reaching out to your membership all the time. So really what your purpose is it engagement? Is it, accountability? Then you're going to want to do it during the session and spend a little more time. If you're using it for a end of session summary or pack validation after the fact, great. You can wait till the session's over and just like do it all at once. So a little easier in those cases. All right, so let's see what magic the next slide holds. Here we go. Okay, next section. Remember everybody, there is the question pane. So if you have any questions about any of what we just talked about, please do drop that in the questions and we will get to it at the appropriate point in the presentation. So the question pane is open. All right, moving on, actually making a scorecard. There's really just two main steps. You have to pick what bills you're gonna rate, and then you've got to rate them. And maybe you'll wanna go and rate actual individual votes if you need to get that detailed. And then once that's done, you can publish it or keep it for your own purposes. All right, so let's go ahead and dive in. How do you choose bills? Okay, so basic decisions you have to make is what time frame are you looking at? Are you doing just this session? Are you going to create a multi-session scorecard? So that North Dakota one was just this year. You saw the Tennessee one was several years. So you can decide like how much you want to put in there. What's the scope? Are you going to do one narrow topic with a handful of bills, or are you going to do several different topics and get quite a number of bills in there? Or we have had people rate all the bills in a session, which is, a project. But, if you don't want to narrow it down, you could conceivably do them all. You could maybe say, hey, I'm only going to do good bills so that we can encourage our members to reach out and ask people to support stuff, which feels good, and not, put up bad bills. And maybe you don't want to anger any legislators by saying something's bad that they wrote, whatever. So you might have your own reasons for narrowing things down a certain way. But first you've got to decide what are you doing? What are the topics you're covering? What is the time frame you're covering? How are you going to narrow your bills down? Okay, so once you've got that, then you need to actually find those bills. So if it's just a handful of bills, fine. If it's going to be everything in a certain topic, then you're probably going to want to set up a bill sheet. And maybe you're going to want to put a position column in to save yourself time later. We will do that here in this demo. We'll make a bill sheet. If you don't know how to add a position column, no problem. This is a little video, so you can watch me do it in just a few minutes. And then this actually walks through like setting that all up and then bringing it in and what happens with the positions in the scorecard. So there's a little few-minute video for you there to help you when you're going to make your own scorecard. And then once you've got that list and you've narrowed it down, then you can load it right into your bill sheet. Or sorry, you can load your bill sheet right into your scorecard and kind of kick out whatever bills you don't want. So that is the choosing the bills process, and you will see me do that live and we'll do a topic together. And then you need to rate the bills, excuse me. So if you do put the position column in, we will give you some default scores, or you can create your own rubric. So you can create your own like list of questions to ask about every bill. If it does this, 1 point. If it doesn't do this, 2 points. If it You know, if it says $50,000, then it's, you know, minus a point, whatever. So you can come up with very specific questions and then rate a bill based on those questions. If you do that and you publish the rubric, you build yourself a lot of credibility. It's a lot of work, but you get consistent ratings. You can get other people to help you rate as long as they can apply the questions consistently. And legislators know exactly what you're doing. Your members know exactly what you're doing, what they're supporting, and the legislators can even get some ideas about how you're going to rate it before you even do. So that can be good if you're like hardcore trying to actually build up your credibility and start influencing what the legislature does. For some votes, for some bills, like if somebody proposes an amendment and you've got that vote, well, maybe you felt differently about the amendment than the vote. You might want to score that individually with a slightly different score. Or if there's a vote to kill the bill, well, then you would want to flip your score. So if you said, yay, I want this bill to pass, and if they're voting to kill it, you'd say, boo, I don't want you to vote that way. So you'd need to go in and fine tune it. So you can go down into the weeds and go through the individual votes and see if any of them need to be adjusted. And I will show you how to do that. Any comments on rating bills, Michael?
Yeah, no, that's I think you covered it perfectly.
Can you tell that that lady there is rating bills right now?
She
But in
wearing
her
the new Apple
mind,
headset.
in her mind. Okay.
I thought it was the new Apple headset.
No, because you can't see her eyes. Oh, yeah. All right. So on we go. Finally sharing. So once you've done all that, which again, I'll walk through for you in a second, then you can either keep it private for your own use. So just to remind yourself how somebody voted on your bills before you call them, or you can share it as a link. So you can put it out in a newsletter, on social media, you can put it on your website, and then people can go and view the scorecard and we'll host it. Or you can take it and embed it right on your website. And the two examples I showed you were people who had put it right on their website so that you go to their website and there it is. So yeah, anywhere from completely private to completely open for the public to see. And obviously, if you put it on your website, you could put it where only your members could see it or only employees can see it. That's up to you. All right, Michael, are you ready to do this thing?
I am ready.
Do you love this? Do you love this? I love this. Okay, in we go. We're going to do it. We're going to do it live. Buckle up. Okay, BillTrack50. This is my account. So I am going to make a new bill sheet, as we mentioned, and I am going to move Michael's head out of my way. Okay, so I'm going to say new sheet. And so I am inspired by my slides to do AI. Let's do an artificial intelligence sheet. Oh no, artificial intelligence. Okay, so we're going to create a new sheet. I'm going to make that. Here we go. And then normally you would do just one state. I'm just going to do the whole country right now to see what we get. All right, so let's add some search terms. So let's say any of these phrases I thought of ahead of time. Artificial intelligence, generative AI. Okay, so those are our searches. And we can take a quick look at what is gonna come back. So this is my topic. I am one of those people from the slides from our dystopian future. And I'm curious about artificial intelligence. All right, so I come through here and I see we've got automated decision systems, automated decision tools, some social media stuff, similar AI principles. Don't know, could take a look. Just artificial intelligence relative to artificial, thank you. All right, so we'll see that. Oh, some budgeting for it. Oh, an Office of Artificial Intelligence. Okay, this is good. So California has some ones that I'm gonna go ahead and do a California card. That looks pretty cool to me. So, but you can look through and see. So whatever, you know, your topic is, you pick the bills and you might say, you know what, I'm not gonna try to convince them to vote yes or no on the budget based on whatever their AI stuff was. I'm gonna stick to just these AI things in the middle. Okay, so I've created that. Now, I happen to have a position column already on my template. Again, you can go watch that movie if you want to see really quick how to add one. Hint, you go to template and add one. Okay, so I've got this position. So I'm going to say, first of all, I'm going to say I just want California. All right, so we've got 12 bills here. So I'm going to say that this inventory situation is great. I'm going to say these decision things are just okay. I'm going to say the social media thing, I don't know. I'm going to be neutral on it. Maintenance of the codes, I'm going to take that out. So that now that won't go over to my, when I import it, I just removed it. I'm going to say this is bad. You see what I'm doing here. Clearly, I have no idea. And then artificial intelligence, I strongly oppose that. No, no, no. All right, and then we'll just do a few more, get them all done here. All right, so now I have gone through and very carefully read these bills and formed my opinion, and this is what I think. So wonderful, I'm done. I've done this part. This part will take you the most time, obviously. I just made stuff up. Apparently I didn't even pick some of them. That's fine. All right, so now I'm going to come over to scorecards and I'm going to make a new scorecard. So this is where the rubber meets the road. Did I forget anything, Michael, while I do this?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so now I can pick whatever state I want and I can go AI, example. And so it's going to pull out the bills from California when I create this. So I can make one sheet and then create a series of scorecards from it. But the scorecard makes you pick one state, or of course you could pick United States if you want to make a congressional scorecard. But you can't have several states on one scorecard. That wouldn't make sense. That would be bananas. Okay, so did it. Here's my scorecard. It's made for California. That's the only thing I can't change. I can change the name. I can give it a subtitle, change the sort. We'll talk about that later, stick a logo on it, and so forth. But what I really want to do is import these bills here. So on the legislation tab, I can just add a bill one by one and type in bill numbers. So if I just have 3 or 4 bills, great. Don't bother with all this bill sheet stuff. Just come in here and add your bills. You can just copy them from whatever list you have, paste them in, and you're done. But more likely, you've got a scorecard. So I'm going to go, or a bill sheet. So I'm going to say, here's my artificial intelligence bill sheet, and I'm just going to add those bills. So it just reached in, took the California ones in, and brought them back. Now, 3 weeks from now, maybe there's going to be a few more bills. So I could come back in here and import them again, and it would just bring what is new. So if you're doing this at the end of the year, great. You do it once you're done. If you're doing it during the year, then, pro tip, you can go in here and say, hey, could you let me know when there's new bills? And then you could come in and rate them and bring them in. Or you could just check back periodically if that's how you fly. Whatever, you get the idea. So once in a while, you can come in and load them back up. All right, so now it's come in and I loaded these bills and you'll recognize these. And you'll see that the default was 5 for strong support, 3 for support, 0 if I say I'm neutral, -3 if I oppose it, and -5 if I strongly oppose it. That's just the default. You might have a rubric that's like 12 points or something. But as long as positive points are good and negative points are bad, and a good bill gets greater than 0 and a bad bill gets below 0, then that's it. That's all that we require. You can use whatever numbers you want from there. So we have plenty of people who just do 1 and -1, but you can do 5 stars. Makes sense to people. They're used to seeing things out of 5 points. So the default's fine, but you can also do 8 or 10 or 100 if you need to have a lot of nuance. All right, so now that that's done, we will score how everybody voted. And if they voted the right way, they get 5 points. If they voted the wrong way, they lose 5 points. Simple as that. But I can come in here and fine tune it a little bit and say, actually, I strongly supported it, but I'm only going to call it a 4. So you can override that default. Or you can say, hey, I liked it so much, I would like to give the sponsor 2 points and all of the co-sponsors 1 point. And then that'll give some people some extra credit. Yeah, so I'm going to do that. We'll get into the rest of this in the advanced section. So now I've got this set up. All my scores are in here. If I had just typed in the bill numbers, then I would just have to come in here and rate each one real quick. boom. Now I've got this done, and it adds them all together. So there is everybody that supported my completely random agenda. And here are the terrible people who opposed my very random bill ratings. So you can see how that kind of very quickly creates your scorecard. That's it. So as new votes come in, they get added into here. So this stays updated all the time. I can look at how the parties worked out, like we looked at for North Dakota. I can look at the heat map. So great. That's it.
That's fine.
Any questions, Michael? Anything I should highlight?
I mean, to me, it's very straightforward. It's very easy to pop this information in. I think I think we've built something that's super easy to use, and very easy to understand from the advocate side. You can see and interact with how people voted, as opposed to, the traditional, you look at a PDF and you're seeing, hey, a lot of very small writing on some of those pages. You can go in and look at the bill and see the bill, and it's visual, it's interactive, it's a great way to communicate with your advocates and stakeholders.
Very good. Thank you. Let's take a second to do a little bit of a dive into how the individual vote scoring works. So this is just the defaults. If I want to walk away, I'm done. But there's more I can do if I want to, make it even better. So if I say edit next to one of these bills, so again, there's the ratings. This are the advanced topics we're going to talk about later. But this right here, this is all of the votes that have been taken on this bill so far. And so what we'll do, it was voted on in appropriations, and then I don't know, some other committee, and then the third reading, and that was it for the assembly. Then it went off to the Senate, went to judiciary and appropriations, and it hasn't made it to the floor for the final vote in the Senate yet. So what we'll do is we will take the last thing that happened in each chamber. So in the House, or the assembly in this case, the last thing that happened was the final vote. And we put this little calculator next to it to remind you this is what we're adding up. And these two we're not going to throw in there. And then this is the last thing that's happened in the Senate. But maybe that's not actually what you want to count. Maybe it was this judiciary one was more interesting to you. So you could say, no, don't count that. Or actually, I don't want either of those in there. So you can exclude that and just do the House ones. Or you could include them both and say, maybe for chamber votes, I only want to give 1 point to people who are voting in the committee, but then they'll get extra points that all the people who weren't on that committee couldn't get. So they'll have a chance at a higher score, which is fine because they're voting on your stuff. So you can come in here and really fine tune it and add anything you want to include and remove anything you don't want. And these little calculators will remind you of what all is getting added up and into that score. So that's when you come in and do the fine tuning. You can get in here and look at the individual votes. And up here, this bill is a link. So you can go to the BillTrack50 readout of the bill, look at the vote, look at the bill, and then go to the state website to get even more information if you need it, read the amendment if you need to, that kind of thing. So all of this is available to you. All right, so that's the fine tuning part, but I think that's enough. We've made a bill scorecard. So you want to do a Zoom high five, Michael? Nice. Yay, go team. All right, so moving on ever so sprightly. What's next? Advanced tools. All right, but wait, there's more. So you saw in the North Dakota example how they had used categories and how that was super sweet. How they had put in some extra comments, always helpful. Plus, I want to talk a little bit about the scoring. And in fact, I think I might tackle the scoring first. So we'll do the slides out of order. So No, we won't. We'll just do the slides in order. All right, so the categories. I've got, this is a link that goes off to either a movie or a document explaining how to set up categories. So you can check that out if you need more help after today. Do you like that, Michael? Yeah, all right. Whose hand is that? Don't know. All right, so here she is making comments with her mind. So comments can include whatever explanation for the vote, whatever things you think people need to know. You can have links in there that link off to a call to action, what you want people to do. It can link off to a blog post or a news article, whatever you need. A copy of your testimony, if you testified in that bill and you'd like people to see what you said, like you can include all of that right in there. You can also put explanations on the individual votes, so that if a vote is different and you're giving it a different score because it's an amendment or something like that, you can explain so that people know why it has a different score. And if you just rate the bill and you put the comments on the bill, then that will appear when you're looking at the legislator list. All those comments will be filled in. If you put a comment on the vote, that will override the comment from the bill because it's more specific, and that's what will show up on the legislator scorecard, just so you know. So those comments are the bill comments, if that's all we have, or if you wrote a specific vote comment, then that's what we'll put there. Hopefully that made sense. Maybe I'll try to do an example. And then scoring options. So yeses and nos are easy. They either get the score or they get minus the score if they voted the right way or the wrong way. But what if they missed the vote? So if they were absent or they abstained from the vote, then you have a few options for how to count that. And that can get a little bit complicated, a little bit mathy. But you can basically not penalize them at all and say, everybody gets 6 sometimes or whatever, or everyone's a coward. We don't hold it against you. Or you can just sort of, they can't get 100% if they like don't vote on the bills, but it doesn't penalize them too much. Or you can actually ding them for it and give them negative points for having like missed a vote that you cared about. So I will show you that, those options. And then you can also change how it sorts to emphasize like what your point of view is. I will show you that too. The details of how the scoring works are in these 2 links. So this is exactly how absent abstain works and some mathematical examples for how it will affect you. And then this is how our different scores work with the formulas for like how we actually calculate the scores. So those 2 articles, if you are super geeky and want to get into the details, which I love, and that's why I put it all in there. So you can dig in as deep as you want there. But let's go back in. No, you don't want to do the hand? Okay. Here we go. So back to our scorecard, artificial intelligence. Okay, so I'm going to start with the scoring. So here you see that we've got the possible score. So this is what they would have got if they voted right every time. This is the vote index, which is essentially what percentage of the time they did vote right. And this is the actual total score. So you can look and say, okay, well, he got 5 points out of 15. She got 5 points out of 15 she could have got. And you think, well, that shouldn't be 66% then. But if you think about it, if you vote right half the time and wrong half the time, those cancel out and you get a 0. So a 0 is actually 50%. So we can look at somebody here. And he voted right on a 5-point bill and he voted wrong on a 5-point bill. So boom, he wound up with 0 points. So that's actually a 50%. So when you look at the 5 out of, I lost him. Anyway, so that's why it's a little counterintuitive for what these scores are. So this is the percentage they voted right just on the votes. It's the vote index. So this is, you can consider it ideological purity, like how much did they stick to what you wanted them to do. Then you've got the total score. The total score includes how many points you gave it. So is it a 5-point or a 3-point or a 1-point bill, or, it includes any committee votes you threw in there, which the vote index does too, but it gives you the extra impact for having been on that committee, instead of the percentage, which just kind of evens that out. Oh, and the percentage also, by the way, evens out between the House and the Senate so that you can compare them side to side. And it also, the total score will include any sponsorship points you assigned, so any extra credit that they got. So you can really consider the total score to be their total impact. Were they introducing bills that matter to you? Were they introducing terrible bills? Are they on the committees that matter to you? And are they voting the right or wrong way? So like the whole package. So that is the total impact. So on this Manage tab, you can say whether you want it to be sorted to highlight the total score, like is it impact that you care about? Or do you want to highlight their ideological purity, which may be important to you, that they just vote down the line? Or maybe you just want to sort it by legislator name so that when people come in, they naturally go find their own legislator. So you get to pick kind of how you want it sorted, to emphasize whatever it is you're trying to accomplish with this. Are you trying to show off who was great, show off who was terrible, and put the bad people on the top? Are you trying to encourage people to look up their own person? Whatever that might be, you can set the sort that way. Okay, so for comments are pretty straightforward. I just want to show you. So here we have a place where you could put a comment. This was great. And then you can put a link. And so you could say, hey, oh, look, I have some. So let's put Masonic conspiracy theories. Okay, so that's my link. And then I'll say read more here. So then that's my explanation for why I gave this a 5, which is probably not a great explanation, but so then we've got the comment and the link, and that's all right there. And so if I go now and look at somebody's score, you'll see that the comment is there. And if I had put a comment down in the vote, then that comment would be there. All right, so comments are easy, but can be super helpful because they show up on that legislator scorecard. So then they can explain to people what you're thinking, or even just right here. And then the last topic, we went backwards, is the categories. Easy, again, not that bad. It just takes a little time. So you could say, okay, so for AI, the things I'm worried about are consumer privacy. Right? Maybe I'm worried about work, just jobs, right? And maybe I'm worried about copyright issues. All right, so I just type it, hit enter, and that adds the category. So there's my categories, and I can have as many as I want. I can come back and add more later after I get started or remove these. Michael, why are you laughing? I feel like
I was wondering why world domination wasn't in.
Oh, love it. Bang, bang, bang. All right, very good. You're so right. All right, so now when I go and look at my bills, I could say, okay, so this bill about high-risk automated decision, I'm going to say that this bill had jobs implications, but also world domination implications. Great. So if I save this, now I see that I have a category column was added and it shows the categories. So automated decision tools, I'm going to say this is purely just a jobs bill. And then for, I don't know, the AI working group, which I'm going to say this is about the copyright stuff and also about world domination. Great. So you can just fill those in, takes a minute, but once you've done it, now I have this category option at the top, and I can say, show me only world domination bills. And similarly, I can come to the summary, and if I'm person that is interested in jobs, then I can say, show me just the job score, and it'll recalculate and show just that. So that's the categories. If they're well thought through, they can be a huge help. If you have a scorecard that has several sessions in it, you could also make it, 2020, 2021, 2022, and then you can see the different scores over time and pick which year you want to look at. And then when you click out a legislator, you can see what their different scores are in the different years. So you can use it that way. You can use it for topics. You can use it for principles. You can use it for, whatever. All right. So the last piece was that crazy absent abstain business. And so that's down here. So right now, if I look at somebody, let's look at Dawn. No, she didn't miss any votes. So if I look at somebody who missed a vote, then yes. So there was 10 points available. She had voted right both times, then it could have been 10 points. So she only got 5 out of the, was it 15? Oh, that's a different person. Oh my gosh. Michael, help me here. I'm losing my mind.
Wasn't it Rebecca?
Rebecca, thank you. Whew. All right, so Rebecca could have got 10 points. Thank you very much. Close that. So she had a possible of 10. But if I come into the Manage tab and I say, you know what, don't count the absent and abstained votes at all, then that takes them out of the possible. And so then that's not held against Rebecca at all. So now I come down to Rebecca and I'm lost.
Last name started with a B. Bauer Kahan, I think.
See, this is why you're a professional. So now her possible is only 5. So it's not 10 anymore. We're only counting the ones that she did vote. She voted perfectly for the vote she did make. So that means now that she's up to 100% because she voted right the time she did vote. So you can decide if you want to count that against them or not. Or you can say, do include them and, in fact, give partial points based on how they voted. So instead of just giving them a 0, you could actually give them points. And what happens here is if a bill passes, then it scores as if they voted yes, because they might as well have, because it passed. And if a bill fails, then it's scored as if it voted no. So if they weren't there and the bill failed, they'll get negative points for not having been there for you. And so then and if they weren't there and it passed, then they get still half credit because it didn't matter. And so it doesn't ding them as much. So that really just kind of emphasizes that when they miss the bills that matter to you. So that's a way to fine tune it as well. Okay, last little item here is the exclude out of office legislators. So if somebody leaves office early in the year and just had the first 5 votes or whatever, and those are usually like rules votes and they voted yes and whatever, then they'll have a wacky score that's way out of line and might make your scorecard look weird. So you can exclude people who are out of office, or if you have a multi-year scorecard and you only care about the people who are still in, then you can leave out the people who left. So that just lets you leave out people who are no longer in office. Yeah, and then finally, here is how you publish it. So you just make it public, and then you have to say save. It's not public until you save. And you can uncheck this anytime you want. So you can change your mind and take it back down. But then you can share this link, like I said, anywhere you want, social media, in a newsletter, on your website, or you can actually embed it in a frame on your website. Okay, we covered the advanced topics, Michael. Any other fine tuning you think I should address?
No, I just the big thing I get a lot of people ask, kind of total points versus percentage. And generally speaking, when you're scoring your vote index, your percentage score is going to be more important than your total points. You can see in the example we did, when we started, the person who had the most points was only voting with us 80 some odd percent of the time. So you're generally speaking looking more at that vote index more than total points. And so think about that when you're setting up the sorting of your of your scorecard. So you might want to look legislator or vote index and not necessarily total points.
But if you're looking for an ally, maybe the most impactful person would be the best option. So yeah, there's different places for them. But yes, absolutely, Michael. So you can sort it that way and make that point. All right, back to the presentation. All right, what's next? Ooh, angry robot. Any questions? Anything anybody wants to know? Any scorecard stories? Scorecard faux pas you think that you'd like to share with the group? What's your favorite scorecard? All right, we'll give you all a second to type. But I'm desperate to go to the next slide and see what's on there. I think it was his hand, though. No, it was a lady robot hand, I think, for the categories. Don't you? I don't know.
I didn't know that's
Anyway,
not a lady robot.
I don't know. We've got a dystopian contact dots. Zombie call. All right, so if you would like to reach out and ask me any questions, please do, or Michael. And then Brianna, if you like that visual one with the gallery of faces, then you can reach out to Brianna or ask me, and I'd be happy to introduce you. And then you can give her scorecard a try as well. But you still need your BillTrack50 scorecard to start from, and then she takes that and plops it into her layout of it. All right. So that concludes today's webinar. I would like to make sure we leave everybody on time. And if nobody has any questions.
I don't see any.
All right, then we will go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Michael. Thanks, everybody, for coming.
Thanks, everyone.
Super great. Okay. Take care.
Bye.